everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are really excited today to have another author with us today. Today, we are talking with author Katie Reid, the author of A Bavarian Christmas. And thank you so much, Katie, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. This is a blast.
Yeah, we love having authors on and screenwriters because I love finding about the process of creating a story. I think it's so interesting. But when did you first get started writing? When did you first know you kind of wanted to write?
Well, I've always liked it, even since I was little. I used to read the Babysitter's Club, when I was in elementary school. And I tried to write a story like the Babysitter's Club for a contest in fourth grade. And the thing about it was, most of it was just about their outfits. This person wore this kind of thing. And it was the 80s too. So maybe that just played into it. It really wasn't a very good story. But I've liked writing for as long as I can remember. I would say I had an English minor in college and a special ed major, English speech dramatic arts minor. And, so I always liked it. Writing papers was fun for me. And I wasn't very great at math. So I knew like, hey, if I had to ever write something, I would be A-okay. But I got more serious about writing in about 2014. 2018, my first nonfiction book made like Martha, Good News for the Woman Who Gets Things Done came out. And then we'll talk more about A Very Bavarian Christmas, but that's fiction. And I didn't think I would necessarily write fiction. I didn't know if I could, come up with all those things.
Mm-hmm. Were you somebody that watched a lot of like Hallmark type movies and stuff like that, or something that interested you as far as coming up with a fiction story?
We did not, dare I say this on this podcast? Like, we did not have the Hallmark channel. Like, I could only
Oh, yeah.
watch it when I went to my sister-in-law's. I changed that this past season after the book was written. But we watched, I had seen them before and
Uh-huh.
I had watched the a little bit lackluster ones on other networks, shall we say. There's a couple good ones. But I knew the formula, right,
Mhm.
ish of that kind of story. And my family and I actually, it was summertime and we went to a Christmas store in the summer
Mm.
and we loved it so much. And I thought, surely someone has written a book about a place like this. And I decided,
Mhm.
well, I'm going to do that. And I had read, I don't know if you're familiar with Bethany Turner, but she writes rom-com, clean, wholesome books.
Mhm.
And once I read her books, I was like, oh, I could write fiction because I can write like romantic comedy style, which are the type of movies I like to watch. And so that was kind of like, I don't picture myself writing historical fiction and doing a bunch of research about different eras, but I know pop culture and
Mhm.
I'm a romantic at heart. And so I thought, wouldn't it be fun to write a story almost like it's a Hallmark movie type feel? But I also wanted to include some things that were surprising, maybe a little
Mhm.
bit heavier than some of the things, a little more peril, if you will,
Mhm.
because I wanted people to relate to it, yet know it was a warm and light read as well.
Yeah, that is one thing that definitely stood out to me in reading the book. We'll talk more about that, but yeah, I wondered if you had, kind of read. I haven't heard it. What's the name of that author you said?
Bethany Turner.
Bethany Turner. Okay, cool. Yeah, because it definitely had sort of a feel of like a Debbie Maycomber or that kind of a of that type of story. So I was curious what had been your influences in your writing.
Yeah,
Uh, so
basically reading
yeah, go
Bethany's
ahead.
books and visiting the Christmas store. And we live in Michigan. And so it is
Mhm.
winter for a lot of the year. And so it's kind of funny that I wrote the book in the summer. I'm actually working on the
Mhm.
sequel, which is a sequel that takes place in the summer. And it's summer right now. So that makes it slightly easier to be like, what does the weather feel like right now?
Yeah. I would want to write something that's in the summer just so I have an excuse to take experience vacation.
Absolutely.
To
Yes.
get-
There are some places that I want to go for research,
yeah, for research.
and I have an idea for like for this to be like 3 parts. And the
Yeah.
last one, I want it to take place in Bavaria, like in, Germany.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I definitely think I'll have to go visit.
Yeah, I just have to. Otherwise the book is just not gonna be that would be my strategy, that's for sure. So you are a writer and a singer, according to your website and everything, and so I'm just curious about the singing part of things. That is that something you also did from an early age?
Yeah, probably before I started writing, I started singing. My family's a very musical family. But, writing songs and writing books, I mean, definitely different, right? Because
Yeah,
with a song, you have to say what you want to say really fast. Obviously, with a novel, you can drag it out. But the coolest thing happened as I was writing A Very Bavarian Christmas. I usually came to my husband's office. He works at a church because it was quiet and we have 5 lively, wonderful
yeah,
kids. But I need quiet to be able to really let the creativity flow. And I was sitting here and I was part of a writing group at the time. I don't know if you've heard of NaNoWriMo, but it's
yeah,
not no
mhm,
November is National Novel Writing Month. And so I was part of this group where we were holding each other accountable to writing our books. And these women were writing about like World War II and like, you know, people in poverty. And like they said, oh, I was crying last night while I was writing my book. And I'm sitting there going, I'm writing a rom com. Like, I don't know that I'm going to cry. I'm not going to kill off a
yeah,
character, by murder or something like that. But as I was sitting here, there's this moment in the book. The main character's name is Holly Noel Brigham. She's a 30 something. She had to move back home, typical story, but life just hasn't turned out how she expected. And there's this she goes to a concert in the book, and at the concert a woman sings a song that really is
yeah,
pivotal and kind of her change of heart. And so I wrote that song for the book, and the really cool thing is that on the audiobook a New York actress read it and she sings the song right on the audiobook, which I just love bringing those together. When I wrote my first book, Made Like Martha, we did the same thing. We wrote a song called Daughter. It's available on iTunes and Spotify and all the things, that kind of summarizes the book. And so I love bringing the two kind of writing things I do, the
mhm.
songwriting and the book writing together.
Yeah, I had never heard that in audiobook because I listened to this on audio book, this The Bavarian Christmas, and I had never heard a full song on an audiobook like that. That was really cool.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really neat. And it's such a thing about Christmas, when you get to hear, uh, a Christmas carol. It's perfect.
Right.
Mm. That's neat. So would you consider yourself a pantser or a plotter? Probably a pantser if you do NaNoWriMo.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm a firstborn girl, type A, like to plan things, but when I write, it's much more of this like, I'm going to sit down and be inspired type of thing. And
Mhm.
once I have some of those ideas formulating as I start writing, then I kind of will plot out very loosely, like or plan out very loosely what's coming. Sometimes I have to write out of order because I'm inspired to write a certain chapter. But I remember my friend Lee, we host the Martha Mary Show podcast together, and she will sit down and like she has sticky notes, she has a whole map for her book. I'm more, especially with fiction, like I'm going to see where the characters take me. And
Mhm.
that happened in A Very Bavarian Christmas. There was one character who became a way bigger part than I expected. And I know this might sound kind of hokey and weird, but my experience writing fiction, it was like I was peering through the woods and watching these characters walk down a path, and I was going to kind of follow them and see where they went. There was one thing I really wanted to happen in the book, and it just like the story wouldn't allow for that. It didn't feel genuine to the
Mhm.
characters. And so some of it was me telling them where I'd like them to go, and another part was just me seeing how is this all going to play out. So I don't know what you would call that.
Mhm.
Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually done NaNoWriMo 4 times. It's been a while. I haven't done it since, I started the podcast because November's pretty busy for me around here.
Absolutely.
But I did love it. There's something about that, just the ritual of every day just writing, that was very, like, very therapeutic.
Yes, and, that was crazy, like, I had written probably 15,000 words on the novel before I started that,
Mhm.
and I did finish it within the month, but, like, my family, I don't know what they ate. I mean, it was, like, maybe some eggs, like, it was
Yeah.
all encompassing, but it was a really great way to crank words out, and as I'm working on the
Yeah.
sequel now, it's like, okay, if you set a word goal like that, even if you get behind or you get ahead, it shows you that it is possible.
Yeah. You're like, cold cereal and canned soup for for the
That's
month.
right. That's right.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcasts, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. Uh, the so A Very Bavarian Christmas. Why don't you kind of mentioned a little bit of kind of what it's about, but why don't you just sort of tell the listeners kind of what they can expect when they
Sure.
check out the
So
book?
so Holly Noel Brigham is the main character, and I have to tell you that I have a friend named Holly Noel, and
Oh, really?
she loves Christmas so much. I mean, she's already counting, she's all year long. And when I was thinking about writing this book, I'm like, how perfect of a name can you get? Right. And so I
Yeah.
messaged Holly and I'm like, Holly, could I use your name in this novel? And she was thrilled. But, they're both brunettes, but that's about where the similarities stop because my character cannot stand Christmas. Her birthday's in December. She used to love it, but she had
Yeah.
a family tragedy that happened right around Christmas and it really jaded her. And so we see her kind of walk through that process of something that happened when, she was young, having to deal with that as a 30 something. She has an art degree. She had tried to do this community startup in Chicago. It fell through. And so she's so embarrassed to have to come home. And now she's using her art degree on personalizing ornaments at this mile-long Christmas store. So definitely not how life was supposed to turn out. And she's single. That wasn't her plan, at this stage in the game. And so it's really kind of her journey to heal from some things in her past. She has some fractured relationships. And also, like, there's a couple guys in the picture, and she's trying to kind of figure out, who might be right for her, if either of them are. And so we follow that journey as well. I think one thing that's unique about this story is that really some of these supporting characters have quite a big role. A lot of
Yeah.
times when you watch a Hallmark movie, it's really mainly about the main characters, maybe a couple other people, but they're almost in every scene, right? Well,
Mhm.
it's not the case with this because I wanted it to be more of a community feel. And not everyone's goal is to find a significant other, right? People have some different goals in mind. Some people have lost people. And I just wanted this to feel like people could read it and really relate to the various characters, not just the main characters.
Yeah, that was one thing that surprised me about the novel, is that there were some pretty intense moments. Like, it wasn't really all that light and fluffy. Like, if it was a if it was made into a Hallmark movie, this would definitely be a Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, not Hallmark Channel.
Right.
Where they did have
Not
more
maybe not
emotion.
quite Lifetime, but maybe
Right.
between the 2, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, not it's not a cautionary tale by any means, but yeah, I was really surprised. There's some family drama. We won't give anything away for people that want to read it, but that that definitely felt pretty intense. And what kind of made you inspired to sort of go down that route?
Well, I have a nephew, and he said to me one time as, I would go over to his mom's house and we'd watch, have a Hallmark movie marathon. And he said,
Mhm.
I don't like watching those because that's not like real life. And like my
Mhm.
life is basically not going to turn out that well, was kind of what he was saying. And so there's actually, I got permission to kind of use a line like that in the book that one of the characters says. But, I think in some ways we like that predictability, right? That
Mhm.
it's all going to turn out in the end.
Yeah.
But like I said, I really wanted people to be able to relate to it in the here and now, to not just be like, oh, well, her life's perfect. That's easy for her, but to realize like we all have things we need to heal from that might be holding us back from what is right in front of us. And there's a line in the song, kind of the theme song we talked about, that says the key to peace is turning to face that which holds you down. And so I think sometimes we just try to plow through, the Christmas season can be really hard for people. I also wanted to showcase that like you might be grieving, especially at Christmas. And that doesn't mean you just have to put on a jolly face and, bake a
Yeah.
thousand cookies, that to acknowledge that space, but then also to point people that even if life doesn't look like how you want it to, there are still good things to be enjoyed. And so that's really
Well,
kind of the
yeah.
overall theme.
Well, and forgiveness is such a theme of Christmas, whether it's your Christmas Carol, whether it's even just the whole story of the atonement and the birth of Christ and everything. That, and it's not always like forgiving in the sense of you did something to me, I'm going to forgive you. It also can be that hurt, that disappointment, that we can feel in life, and that Christmas is a time when we should try to see the good in people and to forgive people for maybe not living up to whatever high standard we might have had. I'll never forget when I interviewed Sarah Montana, one of my favorite interviews. She's a Hallmark writer, and she suffered a horrible tragedy in her life, and she has a great TED talk where she talks about the key to forgiveness is acknowledging your wounds, and and then and then working through those wounds. Like just
Right.
pretending like it doesn't happen, that doesn't help anything. Those wounds are still there. And I
Right.
always thought that was such a beautiful way to kind of talk about it, because they may not have even known that they wounded you, but that's there.
Right.
And it's such a great time. I think also partly because it is the end of the year, so it's a time of kind of retrospection and thinking about how we can do better and what we can do more. It's all there.
Yeah, for sure. And I
Hmm.
love what you said, like just acknowledging that hurt. I mean, we
Yeah.
see that in the novel too. When Holly gets honest with
Hmm.
how, you know, upset she is with what she felt like was guaranteed to her and didn't happen and all of that, then she really actually starts healing faster. Now, that doesn't always happen. It's not like there's this timeline, but when she got gut honest, she was able to really see some tractions going forward. And I've seen that in my own life too. When I just try to pretend it's all fine, it's really kind of like you know, a volcano, right? That lava is still there and trying
Yeah.
to, burst from the surface. And I think as we, are in the Christmas season, it's such a wonderful time in so many ways, but sometimes if we have difficult relationships in our lives, the heat can get turned up for sure as we're navigating schedules or different comfort levels or different traditions, whatever that looks like. And so my hope and prayer is with A Very Bavarian Christmas that it does even help people heal, like in a fiction book. And
Hmm.
as writing nonfiction before, there's something about writing fiction where I feel like the reader's guard is down a little bit more because it's a lighthearted read, but yet there's moments that my prayers, they can actually help heal just from reading about Holly's story, a fictional character.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can it's like they draw you in with the lightness, but then it surprises you with the things that you can learn from it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So you have two kind of, well, I guess three, but you have two main contemporary male characters that are involved in Holly's life. You have Frank, who is coworker of hers that's very fun, and then you have Nick, who is more challenging to her. They butt heads. It's kind of our classic dynamic, and they're fun together as well. And how did you kind of come up with both of those characters?
Well, it was interesting because there's also another character, right? Her coworker, Andy. And it was funny
Mm-hmm.
because as I was getting ready to launch the book and my launch team had read the book, they all loved Andy. You know what I mean? They're like, what about him? I'm like, oh, he's a little too old for her. But anyways, yeah, so Frank is just a really quirky guy, a little younger than her. He's the boss's grandson, works at the Mile Long Christmas store. And I just kind of wanted him to be over the top. Holly
Mm-hmm.
is pretty serious. And so she needs someone in her life to lighten her up, to make her smile, to make her roll her eyes. And, Nick is a little more, he's mysterious a little bit. Like he kind of has a shady past and he just seems to show up wherever Holly is, which, she causes her to be puzzled um and they just kind of are out of sync a little bit. And so it's just interesting, these two dynamics of, Nick's a really nice guy, super handsome, Frank's kind of the boy next door. And so it's interesting it was fun to play between the two
Mm-hmm.
of them because they definitely offer Holly a different kind of thing. For Frank, a downside is that he's going to probably stay in Bavarian Falls for life. He's running the family business, and Holly does not want to stay there. She wants to get out as soon as she can. Whereas Nick, you know, he's kind of a mystery as to what his future plans are, but he seems to take Holly a little more seriously than Frank does. And
Mm-hmm.
so, again, she has to kind of evaluate that.
Yeah. Well, and you get sort of, I would say, Frank's kind of commentary too on her life and her relationship, which is fun.
For
Mhm.
sure.
I like that. That was good. And so, with 5 kids, how did you find time to write this book and do all the other stuff that you do? That's very impressive.
Well, I have a wonderful husband, Adam. And in fact, he's funny because when I started writing this fiction book, I'm like, "Am I writing too much?" And he goes, "I mean, you're writing a lot." He goes, "But you're smiling." He's like, "When you write nonfiction, your brow's like furrowed and you're like stressed that you'll get the theology right." He goes, "But you seem to be having a blast," which makes it a blast for the family too.
Mhm.
But he's super supportive. Um, he gives me time to write. We're very much a team. But one thing that helped with the writing process is, there is a kiss, or a
Yeah.
few in the book. And so I asked Adam if he would help with kiss research. And so we had to try out, some. So he's all for more fiction books and more kisses in the books. But, like I wanted it,
That's
like a
funny.
kiss is so important,
Yeah.
obviously. And it had to be right. Like, where does the hand go? How does it feel? All those things. So anyway,
Yeah.
he enjoyed that. And another thing I did just to motivate is when I would get so much of the book done, we go do something fun as a family.
Oh,
And so
cute.
that really helped them want me to be able to finish as well. It was easier to write it in the summer too, because I'm, my our schedule isn't as crazy, obviously, but it's always a team effort when an author writes a book. If you're just an island writing totally alone with
Mhm.
no, you know, input or whatever, like hats off to you, but it takes a village to write a book.
Yeah.
And so there are tense moments for sure, especially when I was doing NaNoWriMo. It's like, okay, I've got to get this done by this deadline because I am earning that badge, right?
Yep. Yep.
For
Yep.
sure. But
My
they're all troopers for sure.
my sister is a published author, so we've seen that a lot. She just had her first graphic novel published, but her name's Megan Wagner Lloyd, and she did some picture books, and then now has a graphic novel and a regular novel coming out. And so yeah, I can definitely relate to that. She has three girls, and so yeah, it's a
That's so
group effort
exciting.
for sure.
Well, and maybe
Yeah.
she does cold cereal too
Yeah, I'm
for her
sure
kids.
she does.
Although here is a cool thing. When I started writing more, my oldest daughter started cooking more, and she's actually going into culinary arts after high
Oh, that's
school.
so
And so it was
cool.
kind of a cool trade-off. So it
Mhm.
wasn't totally just eggs and cold cereal.
That's good. Did you feel like you needed to get in the Christmas spirit, while writing, even though if it wasn't Christmas? I guess it was during
Yes, I
NaNoWriMo, so it
did.
was.
And yeah, when I got to NaNoWriMo, and we live in Michigan, and so there was a great snowstorm. It could have even been in October that it snowed, but or November. And so we have a pond out back and evergreen trees. And there was one day I'm working on it, and the sun is out, it's snowing. There's these like a berry bush outside. And so I took a little video and pictures because I'm like, I'm gonna need to remember this, like when I'm writing, just that feeling of Christmas. And we
Mhm.
also, like I said, like I took brochures home from this, Christmas store we had visited and was like just poring over it, and looking
Mhm.
online at pictures of different places around the country that are kind of those Christmas theme Hallmark type villages that we see.
Mhm. Yeah. That I would think I'd be drinking a lot of hot cocoa.
Yeah, a great excuse for it,
Right.
right?
Yeah. That's good. Has your husband read the book now?
Well, I have like read parts of it to him, like
Mhm.
throughout the whole thing. So
Yeah.
as I would read a chapter, I'd like read some of it at dinner. So, they're like tired. I mean, they love it, but they're tired of it. So then
Yeah.
I was starting the sequel, and reading stuff. And actually, my husband's had some good ideas for plot twists and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
My daughter had as well. I read it to my daughter and niece as we went along. And so it's fun to incorporate their ideas because I might not have thought about it that way.
Sure. That's great. That's really good. Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good listen. I listened to it on the audiobook, and it was nice to get some Christmas spirit in the audiobook, and I think people will really enjoy it. It's got some heart to it. It's got some humor to it. It's a really nice, sweet little Christmas novel.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
We like to end our interviews with some fun, silly questions. And since you wrote a Christmas book, I had to give you the Christmas version of the silly questions.
I'm excited.
So
Bring it on.
yeah, you ready? All right. First question. What is your favorite holiday drink?
Has to be hot cocoa,
Yeah.
definitely with whipped cream, maybe a little chocolate drizzle and a little crushed Andes mints on
Oh
top.
my
Doesn't
gosh.
that sound
See,
good?
yes, your house is the place to be, I think. For hot cocoa. Yeah, I mean hot cocoa or eggnog are the most popular. They'd be on on the Family Feud poll.
That's
Number
right.
one and number two, I think.
Yeah, I am not an eggnog person. I just not one bit, but people in my family do like it.
Yeah, yeah. I like it a little bit diluted. Like it's a little too strong and thick
Uh-huh.
from the carton. So I like to put a little bit of milk in, make it a
That's
little
that's a
thinner.
good idea. I might enjoy it
Yeah,
better that way too.
yeah. That's what I like. All right. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Okay, so my mom used to go to this cookie exchange with these ladies, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them would make Buckeyes. Do you know what these are? Like peanut butter in the
Mm-hmm.
middle with the hard
Yeah.
chocolate. But she would only get like 3 of them, right? Because they're all swapping. And so
Right.
my sisters and I would fight over those things. And so one time my mom made some from scratch, but some of the recipes have like paraffin in the shell, and I remember it started on fire in the microwave or something like that. But I still love Buckeyes. And I even love my husband so much that I will share, I'll give him one of the
Yeah.
two or my mom has saved for me. But I think those are so good. And
Well,
I think I even talk about them in the book. I mention them.
you can you don't have to put paraffin in, but you could put a little bit of like coconut oil. That'll
Oh,
do the
yeah.
trick.
And that's probably a little better for you.
A little better for you. That'll do the trick. And then yeah, you can those. I mean, anytime peanut butter and chocolate. Hello, that's gonna be delicious.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm. A good choice. Okay. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
I really like "Oh Holy Night." I love hitting the
Mm-hmm.
high note at the end. That's one of my favorites, but probably more of a, traditional contemporary, if that's you can use that in the same word or same phrase, is "I'll Be Home for Christmas," which we talk about that in the
Yeah.
book too. But there's something about that that is just, I don't know, it's equal parts sad and nostalgic. And, in the Christmas of
Mm-hmm.
2020, we actually couldn't go home for Christmas. And so I shed a few tears,
Yeah.
singing that song, but that's just we sang it in choir too. Love that one.
Yeah. I'll Be Home for Christmas must be expensive because it's hardly ever used in Christmas movies. And I think that it would fit in so many different ways and especially when they have these scenes where they're dancing and they put it
Yes.
like Silent Night or something, you're just like, no, that doesn't work. Um and and I just think I'll Be Home for Christmas would be perfect in this scene, but it must be costly. That's the only thing I
Yeah.
figure
Well, and I think
out.
like Silent Night and those Christmas carols are like
For
public
free.
domain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So
I
it's
think
just
you're
like,
onto
why are
something.
you slow dancing to this hymn? It's weird. but
Yes.
but Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. That's one of my favorites. And I'll Be Home for Christmas. Uh and the thing about Oh Holy Night is it's tricky. I usually when I hear that it's about to come on one of these Christmas movies, I kind of cringe to myself because usually it's just a really hard song. It's incredibly difficult. And most
Yes.
people don't have the pipes to pull it off because it goes really low and it goes really high.
Yes. You
And
are,
so
you
I
are
was just
correct.
like,
It's easy to not for it to be lackluster.
yeah, I'm always just like, are you confident that you can hit that high note? If not, pick another song. Do something else, please. Because even like Mariah Carey, like some of the divas, they've sung that song badly. It's really hard.
Yes.
So that's one of my common Christmas movie rants. I was like, oh no, oh holy night, oh no. Uh, but all right, what is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
I really like Miracle on 34th Street in
Mm-hmm.
black and white, like
Yeah, yeah,
or color
original.
restored to it, the original.
Yeah, black and white.
And if you read A Very Bavarian Christmas, you will see I talk about that, and there's a little element that's similar
Mm-hmm.
in from that movie as well. But I just thought when I
It's
was
a good
young,
one.
I guess disclosure parents, if you're listening, I'm going to give away a Santa secret. But when I was young, I was like, is that guy really Kris Kringle in the movie? I mean, I was so intrigued of how they
Yeah,
played all of that.
it's such a good one. I absolutely love it. I'm with you. Underrated romantic movie too. Like their chemistry is so good.
That's probably also why I like it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, yeah.
All right. Let's see here. What is your favorite holiday tradition that you have to do every year?
I think one thing with my husband and kids is we'll watch Elf and we'll have, popcorn and treats. We will
Hmm.
not have spaghetti with syrup on it during it, but sometimes we set up the Christmas tree that night and it's just so fun. And it's still funny after all these
Yeah.
years of watching it. Although I will say, I feel like it's about time for either a sequel or just another movie like that, because it did come out a while ago, but we're still going strong with it.
Well, two things. One, you should definitely check out the animated, stop motion animated film of Elf. They
Oh,
have the music from the Broadway musical in, and it's really charming. It has that like Rankin Bass sort of feel for like the
uh-huh.
old school, like Rudolph and stuff like that. It has that
Yeah.
feel, but it's new and it's
Ooh.
Elf. It's really good. And
Oh,
then the other
thanks.
thing is you should watch Enchanted because it's basically the same story as Elf, except for with
Right.
a girl,
Yes, true. That's good tips.
right? uh, yeah, they're the thing. Both of those movies, they have very winning lead performances. That's part of it. Also, everyone is totally committed to the gag. Like there's
Yes.
nobody who's not sort of taking it seriously and like giving a good performance, which makes it all work. Like James Caan is totally giving as good a performance in Elf as he gave in The Godfather, and nobody will ever be able to convince
Uh-huh.
me otherwise.
Yes. Yep.
and and it's the same way in Enchanted. James Marsden is absolutely delightful in that movie.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yep. So that's the key. And it's got such a good script, Elf. I will never not laugh when he goes into the coffee shop and congratulations, you did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then when he's later, you sit on a throne of lies.
Uh-huh. Well, and how many times do people quote that? It's kind of
Yeah.
like Wizard of Oz. Most day you're
Yeah.
going to hear some quote from
Right.
that. And same with Elf. Maybe Dumb and Dumber as well.
Yeah, that's another good one. Very good. Okay. Which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
The classic Grinch. I mean, I just
Mhm.
have so many memories watching that on TV
Yeah.
when it, would come out. You had to watch it at a certain time or you wouldn't be able to watch it for a whole nother year.
Right.
And just such great storytelling
Mhm.
and again, we mentioned the Grinch in the book as well. I tried to bring in my favorite things about the holiday season and work it into the story.
It's so good. Just the song alone is hilarious. And this I couldn't understand this most recent version because they totally treated the song like an afterthought. You hardly even knew that it had happened. Like it wasn't I don't know. It was just I was like, "What? What were they doing?" Because that song is so funny in the original shorts.
Yes.
You
Mhm.
know, given the choice between the two of you, I'd take the seasick crocodile.
Right. Yes. Don't mess with
Yes,
it if it's not broken, right?
the three words that best describe you, and I quote: "Steak, steak, stuck."
I want to
Yes.
go watch it now.
Yeah. All right. What do you like better, clear lights or colored?
Oh, this is a hard one, but I'm going with clear. I just feel like it's classic.
Mhm.
Um, I do kind of like the blue ones, but I grew up, well, for 3 years, my family lived in Connecticut, and people just had very simple Christmas decorations, like, a spotlight on a sleigh outside with a, red velvety bow and some
Mhm.
pine stuff. And then like the fake candles in the window and white lights. And it was so classy. So I think that
Yeah.
is my go-to.
Very good. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Hmm. If it was the snowball fight in Elf, probably not. I'd opt for the snowman because I don't have great aim, but I think it's fun to see the kids build a snowman, to do that. And the conditions have to be right. And sometimes in Michigan, the conditions are perfect. We had a
Mhm.
massive snowman last year and
Mm,
just warms my heart.
that's cool. Yeah, I lived up in northern Indiana, in Angola, Indiana, for a winter, and that lake effect snow, there's nothing like it. It is intense.
It is a thing for
Yeah,
sure.
it is. That's right. All right. Would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or not?
Well, if bags are considered good gift wrapping, I got it down. But
Yeah.
my grandmother actually used to work like at a department store and wrap packages meticulously. And she
Hmm.
tried to teach me, and like something just gets lost in translation. It looks pretty in my head, but I always, run out. I don't cut it straight. And so gift bags are a glorious thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. All right. Last question. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater? What's your ugliest Christmas sweater?
I don't really because I get too hot in
Hmm.
sweaters.
Yeah.
But last year, as A Very Bavarian Christmas was coming out, I got several Christmas shirts that are not ugly. They're fun. And my friend Mary Carver talks a lot about, Hallmark movies too as well. And she has a shirt that says like, this is my holiday movie watching shirt, and it has Coco on it. And then Annie Downs has a really soft sweatshirt at her shop that says like, is it Christmas yet? And it's got like the silhouette of Santa. And I wore one of them the other day. I'm just like, anytime I can wear those, I'm going to. And so I guess I have cute Christmas clothes, no ugly ones yet.
Yeah, you're like, they're not ugly. They're really they're great. Very good. All right. Well, you passed the test. You answered all the questions. Very good.
I just gonna say I just love what you guys do, and I know as a podcast host to two different podcasts, I know this is like it's work. It's fun work. But I hope everyone will just, share the love, leave ratings and reviews for you because you have
Thank
a great
you.
show. So congrats.
Well, we really appreciate that so much. And we will have a link in the description if people want to get the book. We'll have our affiliate link that you can put in down there. And but if people want to follow you on social media, all the fun stuff, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can just look for Katie M. Reid, and Reid is Reid. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and my website is katiemreid.com. You can also find more information about the book at averybavarianchristmas.com. There's the ebook, audiobook, paperback, and if you buy 2 or more copies of any format, we have a book club kit that we want to give you guys for free because I think it'd be so fun to gather your gal pals and do a book club or your extended family members. And so if you buy 2 or more, you can just go to verybavarianchristmas.com and access that. And it has like a deleted scene typed out. It has a Spotify playlist, some trivia, just lots of things to make it easy for you to have a fun Christmas book club.
It's a great idea. Great idea. And you can find us at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, like Katie said, please leave your ratings and reviews. It really helps us out so much, especially during this holiday season. We need all of those positive reviews, 5-star reviews on iTunes to help the podcast. And also, if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our merch store with tons of festive designs that are really fun. We even have an ugly sweater Christmas design, and we're getting some new ones for this holiday season. Please take a look at that. We also have our patron group, which is so important to us to be able to do what we do, and we really appreciate that support. That's all information will all be in the description section. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And they can find the book on Audible and anywhere you find books on Amazon. Like I said, we'll have our Amazon link in the description. And thanks so much, Katie. This was so much fun to talk with you. I had a great time. And good luck with the book and everything. Congratulations. Look forward to the sequel.
Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Rachel.
Merry Christmas, everybody.